Seattle. And my teaching days were, I started off here in Mississippi, in Columbia, Mississippi, and worked there 4 years. Went to Ocean Springs on the Gulf Coast. Worked there six years, I think it was. And then I left there and went to Detroit and worked in Detroit. And everywhere I went, you have to take this history of the state each place you go. So then I went to Seattle and got certified there and worked there for a while. Then came to Denver, and with the 3 kids, I was not able to work. So I did some substitute teaching there, and that worked out well for me. And then I retired from Denver in the year 2000. So that's basically what Emma is all about. That was great. Nolan, my brother Nolan, had a chance to interview Aunt Lucille in, what year was this? 1984. And Lucille was born February 6, 1894, according to the U.S. Census records. And this information I'm going to tell you was taken from a tape interview of Aunt Lucille on July 4th, 1984, by my brother Nolan Jr. And Lucille was 90 years old at the time when this interview was done. We had a family reunion at my sister Lucille's house, and Nolan was able to get her in a room by herself and ask Aunt Lucille a few questions. That day, she was open to talking about stuff. But I think it shocked Nolan so bad he forgot what he wanted to say to her, because normally she wouldn't tell you anything. She said her mother, Annie Cooper, talked and shared a lot of family history with her. She told her mother's dad, James Arbuthnot, was Scottish-Irish, and her mother's mother, Frances Swaggart, was Indian. And our great-grandparents came from an unknown location on a boat which landed in Virginia. And that person had 8 children, but she was only allowed to bring 2.
Now, which person?
Her grandmother, Aunt Lucille's grandmother, was only able to bring 2 of her children. She had 8 children, and they would only let her bring the 2 younger ones on the boat. We don't know what happened to the other children, where they are, who they were, anything. But she was only able, that had to be very difficult, to leave your children and not know where they're going to be and who they're going to be with, okay? But she said she had 8 children, and the 2 that they brought was her mother, Annie, and Annie's brother was named Sam Hollis. I don't know why the different name, I don't know why she didn't say that. She only had a minimum amount of information about her father. Her father's name was Alex Cooper, and they spell it A-L-I-C-K. Okay, so if you're ever doing family history, have at least 3 different spellings for a name, because they might, like we do now, one of our cousins' name is Mary, and she spells it M-A-R-I. Okay, so she didn't know where he came from, except what she said. We had some relatives called Inmans. The last name is Inman, and she said the mother said he used to hang around with the Inman family. That's what she said. The way I-N-M-A-N family. So our family, we don't know whether our grandfather died, whether he left the family, or just what happened to him. Nobody ever told us what happened with him. And so Nolan asked her, said, how did you all get Locust Hill? She said she grew up on Locust Hill, and everybody there lived together as a family. They were not allowed to fight each other, but one of the cousins named Riley Price was very mischievous, and he kept up some mess all the time. And she chuckled while she talked about that. She called. They had Alex had 4 common law wives, and she gave us their names, and I will find them down here a little bit later. But and Lucille and Daddy, it was 4 of them. It was Alex and Annie Cooper had 4 children: Francis, Lucille, Nolan, and Benny. And they called Benny Sonny. So Sonny never had any children. He was a logger, and they said he was killed. No, he was hurt, injured, logging, and later died. The only one of us that recalls anything about him, Mama Wee says she remembered him vaguely. So, not being able to interview the oldest brother, he might have seen him also, but the rest of us never saw who he was. But Daddy and the rest of them were raised by a stepfather. Grandmother, after Grandpa Alex was no longer in the family, whatever happened, she was able to marry somebody else. So we don't know whether he was killed, whether he died, whatever happened. But she married a man called Richard Palmer, and they called him Bro Richard. And I didn't learn a lot about him, but they didn't have any children together. And Lucille and Daddy's mother and that man didn't have any children together. So Daddy said, the one thing Daddy told us is that the last bale of cotton that they got out of the field, that they would leave that in the barn for the boys to sleep on in the winter. And he said that kept them warm. So life was very, there were no frills, okay. They would try to provide a place for the girls, but the boys would have to sleep wherever they could find a place. So in their case, they slept in the barn on the bale of hay, the bale of cotton. Yeah. So it's amazing. They had a story to tell, and so, like I said, it's just too bad we didn't have sense enough to ask these questions. I don't know whether they would have told us, because some of the stories were so not good, and I'm sure they did not want to remember them even, So it's like the less we talk about, the less we'll know, and the less hurt that we will feel. So they try to protect each other, and with the way the families were mixed, that was never an issue. They never talked about those things. Even though there was no way that any of us had the right to put them down, because they had no rights. They couldn't have prevented anything, because they would just kill you. They didn't kill too many women. They killed a lot of men, though. Or sent them away somewhere, wherever. Okay. Nolan asked and Lucille said, how did you all come by Locust Hill? And Lucille said, and she said it in a chuckling manner, she goes, James Abernathy bought Locust Hill for his common law wives. The first place he bought was on the river in a community called Deer Park. I don't know Deer Park, but there are people who know where Deer Park is. It's down Highway 24, going toward I can't the name of the place.
Fort Adams?
Yes, going toward Fort Adams. And she said that the children would stay sick all the time because they were on the water. And grandfather James Abernathy sold that land and bought Locust Hill. So the Locust Hill that you hear us talking about, that's causing so much controversy because it hasn't been managed properly, that's the land. So this grandfather of ours, great-grandfather of ours, had 4 common law wives. He didn't marry any of them, and he didn't live with any of them. Every one of them had their own house. Okay. One of them's name was Ellen Mason. Frances Swaggart is our great-grandmother. Whatever. Patsy Trask and Ellen Mason, Frances Swaggart, Patsy Trask. What's the other woman's name? 1, 2, 3. That's not everybody. Okay, so what I was given was the 3 common law wives that James Abernathy left this property to. But for whatever reason, 2 of the ladies left Locust Hill and got married. So they are no longer a part of that. The only ones that's a part of that is Ellen Mason, which is, Ellen Mason, and Frances Swaggart is our grandmother, great-grandmother, whatever. Okay. But Patsy Trask and Amy Price moved and got married. I would imagine they were young women and this man wasn't going to marry them. So they left. That's what I gather. Ain't nobody tell me that, but that's what I gather. And Lucille said, told Nolan that the only thing that James Abernathy had in his name was an old gray mare and a saddle and a bridle.